At my birthday dinner, my parents looked at me with that familiar disappointed expression and said, "You're not half your sister." They said it loud enough that even the waiter turned. I just smiled and replied, "Then start paying her." My voice was calm, but my chest burned. They had no idea what was coming next. My name is Mara Ellington. I'm 27 and the middle child, the one who grew up learning how to fade into the background so Serena could shine. Serena Ellington, the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect hair, perfect smile, perfect fiancé. The kind of girl who walks into a room and immediately collects everyone's approval like it's her birthright. And to my parents, Clive and Joanna Ellington, it was her birthright. Growing up, I learned to read the room fast. Every praise went to Serena, every excuse made for her, every lecture saved for me. They never hid their favoritism. It was woven into our lives like wallpaper you eventually stop noticing. Until moments like that birthday night forced the pattern back into focus. We were sitting at the long oak table in the restaurant Serena picked. Not for me, but because they served her favorite dessert. She loved reminding me of that. She always did things with a little smile, the kind that says, "Oops, did that hurt?" My bad, not really. When my parents dropped their insult on me, Serena laughed lightly, pretending it was harmless. But she looked directly into my eyes while doing it. She wanted me to feel small. And I did for a second. But something else rose under it. Something sharper. I felt my jaw tighten, but I didn't let them see it. Instead, I lifted my glass and smiled like I wasn't breaking a little inside. I had spent years swallowing comments like that, convincing myself they didn't matter. But this time something shifted. I felt it. A quiet click in my mind like a door unlocking. As they kept talking, mostly about Serena's engagement plans, I drifted off, staring at them like strangers. For the first time, I saw the lie my family ran on. The money hidden in conversations. The favoritism brushed off as jokes. The secrets no one thought I noticed. The things I found by accident in my father's study years ago. Back then, I told myself it wasn't my business. Now, I wasn't so sure. I looked at Serena. Perfect Serena. She smirked, thinking she won something again. But she didn't know I had already started paying attention. She didn't know I had begun connecting years of dots they assumed were invisible. She didn't know this would be the last birthday they ever mocked me without consequences. In that moment, while everyone laughed, I made a quiet promise to myself. This was the last time they would humiliate me. I wouldn't stay silent anymore. When I think back to my childhood, the unfairness wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, constant, and everywhere. Serena got everything: piano lessons, dance classes, private tutors. I got her old clothes, old school supplies, and a long list of chores. It was like our parents didn't even try to hide the difference. They acted like this was normal, like this was how families were supposed to work. My younger brother, Declan, saw everything even though he rarely spoke up. He was the quiet one, always watching from the corner of the room. Sometimes he would give me a small look, the kind that said, "I know this isn't fair," even if he didn't have the courage to say it out loud. Our dad, Clive, had a habit of slipping Serena cash for emergencies. But when I asked for help, he said money would build bad habits in me. I didn't understand it then, but that sentence stayed in my mind for years. It shaped me. It taught me that if I wanted anything, clothes, school supplies, even a little freedom, I had to earn it myself. And I did. I worked small jobs, saved every dollar, and tried not to feel the sting when Serena bragged about her new things. The hardest part wasn't the money or the chores. It was the way Serena took credit for everything I did. If I fixed something around the house, she somehow turned it into her achievement. If I helped Declan with homework, she would tell our parents she explained it to him. She always smiled when she stole my work, like it was a harmless joke. My parents believed her every time. They wanted to believe her. Declan would sometimes whisper apologies to me when no one else was around. He wasn't standing up for me, but at least he saw the truth. I guess that made the pain feel a little less lonely, even though it didn't change anything. One day, when I was about 14, I went into Clive's study to return a book. A folder had fallen from his desk. Papers had slipped out, numbers, signatures, accounts I didn't recognize. I didn't understand them fully, but something felt wrong. I put everything back the way it was, pretending I hadn't seen a thing. But that image stayed locked in my mind. It was my first hint that the favoritism in our family wasn't only emotional, it was financial too. I didn't know it then, but that moment was the first crack in everything I believed about my family. It was the start of the wound I still carried, even as an adult. Adulthood didn't magically fix anything. If anything, it made the differences sharper. While Serena lived comfortably under our parents' roof and on their money, I worked 2 jobs just to stay on my feet. I rented a small apartment on my own, proud that I was paying for it without anyone's help. But my parents rarely visited. When they did, they acted like they were doing me a favor by stopping by. Serena, meanwhile, continued living her perfect life. She got engaged to Braden Cross, a man who looked like he belonged in a magazine, polished, confident, always dressed like he was ready for a photo shoot. My parents adored him right away. They treated the engagement like a royal announcement. They planned dinners, celebrations, and future vacations with him as if he were already part of the family. During one visit, my mom Joanna laughed and said, "When you get married, Mara, we'll keep it small to save money." She said it like a harmless joke, but it stung in a place I thought I had grown numb. It was a reminder that to them, I would always be the daughter who didn't deserve too much. I brushed it off on the outside, but inside, something was shifting. Something cold. Something steady. I started noticing how easily Serena spent their money. New clothes every week, luxury spa visits, expensive dinners with her friends. She acted like she earned all of it. She even bragged online and to Braden about being self-made. It bothered me more than I admitted. Not because of the money, but because of the lies. The small betrayals kept piling up. Serena forgot to invite me to her wedding planning events, even though I was supposed to be her maid of honor. When I mentioned it, she laughed and said she assumed I was too busy working. My parents defended her, of course. She didn't mean it, they said every time. Serena is just stressed. But Declan, my quiet brother, started speaking up in his own small way. When we talked alone, he hinted that Serena wasn't as perfect as she pretended. He didn't give details at first, but he made it clear that she had a side no one else saw. Something manipulative. Something controlling. I listened carefully. Not because I was surprised, but because I felt something inside me start to take shape. I began keeping track, notes, screenshots, receipts, anything that showed how my parents supported Serena while leaving me to struggle alone. At first, I told myself it was just for my own sanity. I wanted proof that I wasn't imagining things. But as time went on, I realized I wasn't collecting this information for comfort. I was collecting it because a part of me knew I would use it someday. The idea of revenge was no longer just a thought I pushed away. It was becoming real. It was slowly, quietly forming, waiting for the right moment. The truth came to me on a quiet evening when Declan showed up at my apartment looking more stressed than I had ever seen him. He didn't even sit down at first. He just stood there, breathing hard, as if he had been holding something inside for years. Then he finally said it. Serena had been manipulating our parents for a long time. Not just simple lies, but things that made my stomach twist. She had been lying about her expenses, forging signatures, and moving money around without anyone noticing. As he spoke, something clicked in my memory. The papers I had found in our father's study years ago. The strange numbers, the accounts that didn't make sense. Back then, I thought I was imagining things. Now I knew I wasn't. Those papers were part of something bigger, something Serena had been doing behind all our backs. Or maybe not behind our parents' backs. Maybe they chose to look away. Declan wasn't done. He pulled out his phone and showed me screenshots he took from the family computer. Serena had forgotten to log out one day, and Declan saw messages she sent to her friends. Messages where she called me pathetic, useless, and dead weight. She joked about how easy it was to fool our parents. Reading her words felt like being punched. It wasn't just jealousy or favoritism anymore. It was cruelty. But the worst part came next. Declan told me something I still have trouble believing. Serena had taken out credit cards under my name when we were younger. I felt sick as he said it. I didn't want to accept it, but a cold feeling in my chest told me it was true. I opened my laptop, logged into a credit check site, and waited. When the screen finally loaded, I stared at the numbers frozen. There were debts I had never seen before, late payments, accounts I never opened, thousands of dollars tied to my name. My heart dropped. This wasn't a small mistake. This was years of damage. Years of lies. I called my parents immediately. I expected shock, concern, maybe even anger at Serena. But they didn't believe me. They said I was overreacting. They said Serena would never do something like that. They said I must be confused. They defended her again, without hesitation, without even asking for proof. Something inside me hardened in that moment. I wasn't just hurt, I was done. Done waiting for fairness. Done hoping they would ever see me. I no longer wanted to simply stand up for myself. I wanted justice. Real justice. Declan looked at me with guilt and fear mixed together. But he didn't walk away. He put his hand on my shoulder and said he would help me. He would stand with me this time. For the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of clarity. This was the moment everything changed. When I finally decided to dig deeper into what Serena had done, I knew I couldn't do it alone. That help came from someone I never expected, Alden Pierce. He was a quiet family friend who had worked with my father for years. He wasn't the type who joined family dinners or laughed loudly at jokes. He stayed in the background, observing everything. Maybe that's why I trusted him when he offered to look at the documents I had gathered. Alden didn't take long to confirm what I feared. The signatures on several papers were forged. The money movements were strange and clearly designed to hide something. He showed me accounts that led straight to Serena, accounts filled by my parents' money without their full knowledge. His calm voice made the truth even heavier. It wasn't a simple case of favoritism anymore. Serena had been stealing, lying, and manipulating for years. Then Alden told me something even worse. He suspected she might also be using Braden's finances. He had seen patterns before, and the signs were similar. The idea that Serena was doing the same thing to the man she claimed to love made me realize something I had been avoiding. Serena wasn't just selfish. She was dangerous. She didn't care who she hurt as long as she got what she wanted. I knew I had to act carefully, so I started building a solid case. I collected every piece of proof I could find: bank records, old emails, text messages, receipts. I tracked accounts that led nowhere at first, but slowly began to form a clear picture. I even spoke to people who knew Serena years ago. Some had warnings, some had stories, but all of them painted the same picture of someone who always took and never gave. During this time, Declan told me something that made my chest tighten. When I was younger, I had earned a scholarship, one that could have changed my life. I remembered being confused when my parents told me the school reconsidered. But Declan admitted that Serena had pushed them to reject it, saying it would make Mara too confident. She had taken something from me before I even knew it existed. My anger didn't explode. It didn't burn loudly. Instead, it turned cold and steady. I stopped shaking, stopped crying, and started planning. I realized that revenge didn't need to be loud or messy. It just needed to be true. With everything I had learned and the proof I gathered, the plan started forming clearly in my mind. Serena's engagement party would be the perfect place. The perfect stage. The perfect moment for everything she had hidden to finally come into the light. And this time, she wouldn't see it coming. The night of Serena's engagement party felt unreal from the moment I walked in. The place looked like a scene from a luxury wedding magazine. Gold decorations, expensive flowers everywhere, waiters carrying trays of champagne. My parents had clearly spared no cost. All of this for Serena. Always Serena. I held my bag close, knowing exactly what was inside. The evidence I had spent weeks gathering. For the first time in years, I didn't feel nervous or small. I felt calm, focused, ready. Serena saw me before I even reached the main room. She walked over with that proud smile she always wore when she wanted everyone's attention on her. Without even saying hello, she made a loud remark about how nice it was of me to show up, even though I never understood real success. Her voice carried across the room. People looked at me, then at her. My mother Joanna laughed, as if Serena had just told a harmless joke. My father Clive shook his head with that disappointed look he saved only for me. But Braden, the man Serena was going to marry, didn't laugh. He shifted uncomfortably, almost like he wished he could disappear. I didn't respond to Serena. I simply smiled, the same smile I gave her at my birthday dinner. Then I quietly asked Braden if we could talk for a moment. He hesitated but agreed. We stepped aside into a quieter corner. I spoke softly, keeping my voice steady. I told him I had reasons to believe that Serena had been stealing money, not only from our parents, but possibly from him too. His eyes widened. I could tell this wasn't hitting him out of nowhere. He had already suspected something. He just never had proof. So I showed him a small part of what I brought. Not everything, just enough to open his eyes. Bank transfers, strange purchases, signatures that didn't match. His face went pale. He kept whispering. I knew something was wrong. I knew it. Before he could say more, Serena appeared out of nowhere. She grabbed Braden's arm and glared at me like she wanted to tear me apart. She demanded to know what I was saying to him. Her voice was sharp and angry, and people nearby started turning to watch. She immediately accused me of jealousy, of trying to ruin her moment, because I didn't have a life of my own. It was the same script she always used. But this time, it didn't land the same way. Braden looked at her with a cold expression I had never seen on his face before. Then he asked her one simple question, direct and pointed. A question only someone guilty would fear. Her reaction said everything. Her face froze. She couldn't hide the panic fast enough. She tried to laugh, then tried to blame me, then tried to accuse him of misunderstanding her. None of it worked. Without another word, Braden stepped back, turned around, and walked out of the party. Without her. The whole room went silent as Serena stood there, stunned, trembling with anger. And I knew this was only the beginning. The moment Braden walked out, the entire room shifted. The music kept playing, but people stopped talking. Serena stood frozen, her hands shaking, her smile gone. My parents rushed to her side immediately, and then their eyes turned to me like I had committed some terrible crime. Joanna marched toward me first, her voice sharp with anger. She accused me of destroying Serena's big night, of embarrassing the family, of being jealous since childhood. Clive backed her up, saying I should have left if I couldn't be happy for my sister. They didn't ask what happened. They didn't ask why Braden walked out. They didn't even wonder why Serena looked terrified. They just blamed me, like they always did. This time, I didn't defend myself with words. Instead, I reached into my bag and calmly handed them the printed statements, pages of dates, signatures, transactions, transfers, and every piece of evidence I had collected. My voice stayed steady as I asked them to read before speaking again. Joanna barely made it halfway down the first page before her face changed. She looked confused at first, then scared, then completely broken. She kept shaking her head like she wanted the papers to disappear. Clive refused to believe any of it. He kept repeating that Serena would never do something like this, that someone must have lied to me or tricked me. Before he could accuse me again, Alden walked toward us. He must have seen what was happening from across the room. He greeted my parents politely, then explained, in his calm and professional voice, that he had reviewed everything. He confirmed that the documents were real and the signatures were forged. He told them the money trail was clear, and it all pointed to Serena. His words left no room for doubt. It was the first time I saw Clive speechless. Then Declan stepped up beside me. He didn't stay quiet like he usually did. He spoke loudly enough for the surrounding guests to hear, saying he had known something was wrong for years and that I was telling the truth. It felt like the room shifted again, but this time in my direction. For the first time, I wasn't alone. Serena suddenly tried to play the victim. She cried loudly, saying we were all attacking her, that I was trying to destroy her happiness. But before she could finish, Braden walked back into the room. He didn't look at her with love or worry, only disappointment and anger. He exposed even more, telling everyone that Serena had drained a shared savings account they had started together. He had proof too. Serena tried to deny it, but the panic in her eyes made it clear she was caught. People around us started whispering. The perfect daughter image she had protected for years was falling apart right in front of her. She snapped at me, calling me pathetic, but her words had no power anymore. No one believed her. No one defended her. Not even our parents. Joanna cried quietly. Clive finally looked at Serena with real confusion, like he was seeing her clearly for the first time in his life. And just like that, the family they always protected for her collapsed in one night. I knew I had to take action, even if it meant facing more trouble with my family. I filed a report about the identity theft and the credit cards Serena had opened in my name. It wasn't easy walking into the office and explaining everything, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was taking control of my life. Alden stayed by my side the whole time, calmly helping me untangle the financial mess Serena had caused. He went through every form, every step, and every detail with me so I wouldn't feel lost. Slowly, I started to understand the full extent of the damage she had done. As the investigation moved forward, Serena's life started falling apart. People who had admired her began avoiding her. Friends stopped calling, and neighbors whispered behind her back. When the charges came, she panicked. Instead of accepting responsibility, she tried to blame me for everything. But no one believed her anymore, and I could see the fear growing in her eyes. My parents tried to make up with me, saying they wanted to repair our relationship and make things right. But I kept my distance. I needed time to heal and decide what I wanted. Their concern felt too little, too late. I appreciated it, but trust wasn't something I could rebuild overnight. Declan reached out too. This time his apology sounded real. He admitted that he had stayed quiet too long and ignored Serena's actions. He promised to help me recover what had been taken from me. I was cautious, but I could tell he meant it. It felt good to have him on my side at last. Braden ended the engagement for good. He didn't hide anything from me. He worked with the investigators and shared what he knew about Serena's finances. His honesty and support made me respect him more than ever. He wanted the truth, and so did I. I started rebuilding my credit, organizing my accounts, and planning my future with a clear mind. It felt like starting over, but this time I was stronger. My parents had to sell some of their assets to cover Serena's debts, and Serena screamed at me, blaming me for her downfall. But I didn't care. I finally saw the truth for what it was, and I no longer had to carry the burden of her lies. For the first time in my life, I felt free and in control of my own life. After everything with Serena was over, I finally felt free. Free from lies, free from manipulation, and free from the constant shadow of my parents' favoritism. I focused on myself, on my work, and on building a life that belonged entirely to me. It wasn't long before my efforts were recognized at my job, and I earned a promotion. It felt good, real recognition for the work I had done, without anyone else taking credit or standing in my way. With that success came a quiet confidence I hadn't felt in years. I no longer needed my parents' approval to feel worthy or capable. I set boundaries that I had never dared to set before. No more excusing bad behavior, no more letting people take advantage of me, and no more free passes for anyone. Not Serena, not my parents, and not anyone else. I had finally learned what it meant to stand for myself. Declan stayed close during all of this, and our bond grew stronger than ever. I could see the relief and gratitude in his eyes. He was glad I had exposed Serena, and he supported me in ways he had never done before. It felt good to have family on my side, even if it was only one member. Alden remained a steady presence in my life too. He wasn't loud or showy, but his support was constant. He guided me, offered advice, and quietly helped me make sense of the financial lessons I had learned the hard way. Having someone reliable in my corner made the world feel a little less lonely. I even started helping others in small ways. I gave advice to people who were dealing with financial abuse or manipulation. I shared what I had learned, hoping to prevent them from going through what I had endured. It wasn't a big role in my life, but it gave me purpose beyond just my own recovery. One afternoon, I walked by my childhood home and felt an unexpected wave of emotion. I paused at the gate, looking at the house where so many of my childhood wounds had formed. For a moment, I imagined the old me, the girl who shrank back while Serena thrived, the girl who longed for approval that never came. But that girl was gone. I had stepped out of Serena's shadow for good. I realized I didn't need anyone's praise to feel proud. I had built my own life on my own terms, and I had done it despite everything that tried to hold me back. That quiet moment, standing outside the house that had once felt like a cage, reminded me how far I had come. I had risen. I was strong. And I was finally free. Serena found me one afternoon, her face red with anger and desperation. She stormed into my space and demanded that I fix everything, like I was responsible for the chaos in her life. For a moment, I felt the old anger bubbling up, but I stopped it. Instead of shouting or fighting back, I stayed calm. I looked her in the eye and told her the truth. I didn't ruin her life. She did it herself, with every lie, every manipulation, and every selfish choice. Her face twisted, and she spat out the words I had heard so many times before. She called me half a sister, mocking me just like she did on my birthday all those years ago. The insult hit differently this time. It didn't wound me. It reminded me of how far I had come. I took a deep breath and repeated my line from that night, but this time with finality and strength. If I'm not half your sister, then stop expecting me to clean up your messes. Serena froze for a second, then turned and stormed away, furious and defeated. She had no words, no control, and no audience to defend her. I watched her leave, feeling a strange mix of relief and closure. For the first time, I realized that I didn't need to fear her anymore. I didn't need to prove anything to her, or anyone else. Afterward, my parents, Clive and Joanna, approached me carefully. They apologized for years of favoritism, for the times they had turned a blind eye, for the words that had hurt me deeply. Their voices were softer than I remembered, and their eyes finally seemed to see me. I accepted their apology, but I also made it clear that I would not return to the old family dynamic. I had learned too much, and I knew my boundaries. I was not the girl they could push around anymore. That day, I walked away with my head held high. I felt the weight of years of comparison, of favoritism, of manipulation, lifting from my shoulders. Every step I took was a reminder that my life belonged to me now. I had independence, self-respect, and the knowledge that I no longer needed anyone's approval to feel worthy. For the first time, I could look forward without the shadows of Serena or my parents defining me. I had claimed my life, my choices, and my confidence. I was finally free to be myself, strong, unshaken, and proud of who I had become.